Good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 7 of the Virtual Island Summit. Thank you for being here on what has been a very long but very exciting week with so many different sessions, so many different things happening. Hello to everyone joining on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter also. This has been an amazing week with so many great speakers, and we are getting a lot of question about recordings. So don't worry, all attendees will be sent information on the library of contents from all sessions from the week, which will be accessible to watch on demand. We know that many of the sessions are at difficult times for you, or just with there being so many, it's not able to attend all. So it's really important that everything coming out of this week is accessible for the future, including this session itself. I am delighted to be joining today for this session. As you know, Island Innovation is both a network, a media platform, and an agency working on projects with island communities around the world. And this year we've noticed a real uptick of presence from the Pacific Islands participating in our events. So I'm delighted to be in this session with a project that many of you may have heard about, Ol'au Palau. And Palau is really a leader in sustainable tourism in many, many respects. And one of the people behind that is Jennifer Koskelin-Gibbons. Jennifer, I welcome you to come up onto the screen when you're ready. Jennifer and her team and all the people in Palau have worked on various different stages of sustainable tourism. And I think just chatting with Jennifer and reading more, this new initiative is really fantastic. So congratulations, Jennifer. I invite you just to say a little bit more about Ol'au Palau.
Thank you for inviting us. It's a real pleasure and honor to be able to participate today. I think maybe a lot of people are familiar with Palau as having the world's biggest percentage of its EEZ closed to extractive activity. That includes fisheries and other extractive activity. And that happened in 2015. And all this work has resulted from our fortunate leadership, good leadership, and then follow through in terms of how can we activate that forward-thinking environmental cultural ethos, our tradition of the bull, and making that a community effort, as well as our extended visitor community, who, while not realizing it, are some of the most important people that tread in our terrestrial spaces and in our rock islands. And so we then launched something called the Palau Pledge, which was a world first initiative, putting a stamp in your passport where you pledge to the children of Palau to tread lightly and be culturally sensitive and aware of your activity while you're in Palau. And we thought that was the beginning. We viewed it as the start of all the work, not the end. And so now we're fast forward 4 or 5 years, and we're so pleased that our agency help and all of the volunteers that make this all happen have been supporting us to get to where we are today with Ol'au Palau.
Fantastic. And I think it's really exciting to explore these new intersections between technology and tourism and sustainable tourism. So maybe we can start with just playing a quick video to give people watching a little bit more background on Palau and about the project. So I'll go ahead and play the video now.
So much of our natural world, no matter how fragile, can be accessed for a price. But the real cost is higher than many realize. While tourism is vital to Palau, its impact threatens our environment and culture. And so, we are inviting you to access our most treasured natural and cultural wonders, not according to how much you spend, but by how gently and respectfully you treat our island home. Ol'au. It's a Palauan invitation, extended not to visitors, but to trusted and respected friends. To those who understand that our country, full of pristine scenery and breathtaking biodiversity, must be navigated with care and love. And now, we all owe you. For the first time, the more sustainable your actions, the more access you'll get to our culture, our Palau, and to stunning new sites of Palau that are traditionally reserved for our community and our loved ones. Arrive as a visitor and leave as a friend. Not only will you enjoy more of Palau, you'll help preserve it for future generations to enjoy too. Ol'au Palau, Agi Ol'au.
Fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful island. Jennifer, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the context of tourism in Palau in terms of the importance to the economy and also the types of numbers to give us some idea of the scale of tourism in Palau.
Well, if we were fortunate to be in a large industrialized country, we would have a multitude of diverse inputs into our economic engine. So very big GDP that has many contributors. Tourism is the very largest for us. And everybody can feel it with COVID. We've gotten a sense that the importance of tourism was really knocked us out with COVID, and not having the visitors arrive has really changed the dynamics locally. But if you think about it in terms of its order of magnitude, fisheries didn't even break 1%. And that's not local domestic fisheries. That's all the imported sort of long lining or purse seining activity that used to occur in Palau. It didn't even break 1% of our overall GDP. So tourism is the first and biggest contributor, with a far, far, far second being fisheries. So creating that traditional bull, which also what became the hallmark of, if you come to Palau, you will see pristine and have pristine experiences in the ocean, and we'll back it up with our traditional practice of the bull. That's really where everything starts for us.
Okay, that's really helpful context. And so obviously the passport maybe and the pledge, sorry, people are familiar with as the first step in this journey. And then this concept of Ol'au was brought in. Now, Ol'au has a very specific meaning to people from Palau. Maybe you can give us that.
That's right.
What is the concept of Ol'au?
So when you first visit Palau, we don't know you. And actually, when you go into a village, you really, you shouldn't be coming empty-handed. You should always come with something. And you should always introduce yourself to the village elders. And so that people know what you're doing, why you're there. It's not them being nosy, but you're effectively walking into their home. And then once you engender that relationship and friendship, you can be a little bit more informal with each other, and over the years that relationship solidifies, and then you're really part of the family. And what we wanted to say was, when we call someone and we say, hey, come over, it's that gesture of come on over and join us and do this activity. That's a very informal thing, and it's earned. And that's what Ol'au means. Come and join us in what we are engaging in, and we know you, and we know that you will tread lightly and act mindfully. And so the thinking was, how can we create a platform that turns sustainable behavior into a valuable currency? How can we make this a way for you to participate in our culture, with our people, engage with us, and then have a more meaningful experience? But you walk away with that meaningful experience, but I, as a Palauan, also end with a lovely sharing of what I have in my community to you. And that's really what we're talking about, is when you come to Palau, not only do we ask you to sign the passport arrivals stamp, the Palau Pledge, which asks you to tread mindfully and act in a way that is consistent with our cultural behaviors and our cultural mores. But could you follow these amazing string of world first platforms that our leaders had the foresight to put into place? So a great example would be, reef safe sunscreen. That's something that's been talked about back and forth in many, many different places, but we did it. And now if you come to Palau, we have a little amnesty bin at the airport. You can drop it in there and then you can go to the store and buy a reef safe sunscreen. We even have locally made reef safe sunscreen. You can also track your carbon footprint. How do you do that? And then how do you offset it? We have a carbon calculator now that we're so pleased that our friends at in Taiwan, ICDF, helped us create, and all the back end of that analytical heavy lifting was supported by FAO. So it isn't just signing the pledge, it's taking those steps, those behaviors, and turning those into a kind of currency where you'd be able to have that Ol'au experience, even though you're a first-time visitor to Palau.
And actually, you just mentioned the sun cream, so I'm going to ask this question. Jubet in Malaysia had asked about the compliance rates specifically for sun cream, and to what extent that has to be policed. But I guess even more broadly about many of these actions that you're asking tourists to take. To some extent, you're relying on good faith.
Right.
And so, how does that work? To what extent do you need to enforce these rules?
That's a really good point. We have the luxury of living on a small island, and the number of individuals we have to ask to make sure their clients comply are smaller than in other places. But the other amazing thing is our service providers here in Palau are on board. They believe in this work. And so if you go to any of the local providers of these types of health and beauty products, you'll find that all they sell are reef safe sunscreen. And like I said, when you enter, there is an amnesty bin that sort of says, hey, don't forget, this is, don't use that sunscreen. And you'd be surprised. People want to comply once they know in a gentle and sort of non-accusatory way that, hey, if you use this reef safe sunscreen, you'll help us preserve our biodiversity for a longer period of time. All of a sudden they get it and they want to comply. And so I think we try to give people the benefit of that doubt. So our first line of defense in terms of making sure that they're using the right sunscreen is that we don't allow the non-reef safe sunscreen or sunblocks to come in the first place.
And so a big part of it is education as well, because
Absolutely.
Sunscreen, as an example, people probably just don't know the impact that sunscreen can have. And so I think that education part is really important. But also, as you said, you do have the luxury, if we can call it that, of a specific type of tourist in general, and perhaps not the same type of mass tourism that Hawaii or Canary Islands or other places have, that allows you to have that more personal interaction and education, and also just a level of interest from your tourists that I'm sure many destinations can only dream of. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's exactly a fair assessment, and I think that we just want to build further on that. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, Palau's so small, what impact are you making? They forget that once you have that experience, social media, it blows it up out into every corner and facet of the world. So you visit Palau, and our hope is that you leave taking a little bit of that understanding that you have a responsibility, just like in that traditional bul, when, you could say there's a bulan sunblock, right? So you can take that bul, and when the chief says there's a moratorium on something, everybody complies. And that's our culture. And that's the experience that we want to share with you, so that when you go back to where you come from, you're considering those things in your own ecosystem, in your own space, because what happens in Asia and Europe and Africa, that all impacts on Palau. So we really need your help. So by doing this, we're hoping that there's a ripple effect, just like the video talked about. One little drop can really make a difference. And we really believe in that, because that's how we practice traditional, our traditional practices in Palau. It's everybody's responsibility. You don't wait for the police officer to come tell you that what you're doing is silly or endangering other people's lives. You just do it because you know it's the right thing to do.
Exactly, a really proactive approach in that sense.
Yeah.
So if I'm visiting, I can sign up for Ol'au Palau, and I can have the opportunity to take part in these positive actions. And part of the amazing, the rationale for me doing that is that I then get to gain greater access and gain more experiences to interact with the local culture. So talk me through that. There's I guess you have the carrot and the stick approach here.
Exactly.
The stick is at the airport with the amnesty bin, but then there's also this incentive approach as well, which is a huge part of it.
Which is exactly what we're talking about when we talk about how we can turn sustainable behavior into a currency. So what we're saying is, yes, you're still going to pay into a tour experience, but an off-the-shelf tour experience. For us, what we're trying to do is also engage the local community so they can be more active participants in the tourism sector, so they are getting the benefits of tourism, and that becomes an incentive for them to maintain their cultural identity, to maintain their cultural practices, because there is a benefit beyond just their small microcosm, and there's a benefit beyond a traditional funeral or a omangat, which is a first birth ceremony. So that's a great example of how we can ask you to specifically log your activities. So the idea is this time next year, you'll be able to identify that you've used Reef-Safe sunscreen, you've signed the pledge, you went to a business pledge certified company, which mines their water, their energy, and their waste. In particular, waste is huge on an island, a huge issue. And those preferred providers, when you activate going to those suppliers, you also earn points for those activities. And you can go to a site like Ngordok Nature Reserve in Melgeo, who's a close partner of ours, and you can just do the tour where you go around. Or what we can do is say you've earned points enough to have it be done by Deerland, or have it be done by Loma. And Loma is familiar with all the endemic birds as well as orchids in that space. And so you're getting an experience that's more personalized, that otherwise you would have to know people to call someone to get access to this individual who can do it for you. And that's the difference between just being a first-time visitor, we don't know you, we don't know if we can trust, and becoming an Ol'au or an invited friend into the community, because now we know that you are going to tread lightly and mindfully. And it's, I hate to kind of use this term, I'm on the fly kind of think it's sort of like a vetting exercise, where, you know, we vet the visitor. So the more they do that complies with our laws and our policies, the more we will reward them.
And so Francois in French Polynesia had asked about the rewards, and you'd mentioned, obviously we talked about sunscreen as the main one, but to give people other ideas, and this could also be what's proposed, because I know this is still an ongoing development. Specifically asked about restoring or regenerative activities in corals or other local ecosystems. So it's not just the protection and not doing bad things, but also is there some actively doing things and contributing elements?
I'll go back to our great friends up in Malgayor. So one of the things that they have to do, which benefits them with this exercise, is that they are the owners of the one water supply in the whole of Palau, the Big Island. And it has been their duty for generations to make sure that it's maintained in a way so that everybody can have that resources during the times of drought. And it happens enough in modern times that they get activated to pump water to the rest of the system. So they're very aware of their responsibility. And so being able to access that and have that experience becomes just yet another sort of tick off of that box, but you can also help them maintain it. So there's tree planting there. There's a native plant that, if not managed, will overgrow. It's called oais. I'm so sorry, I don't know what the English term for it is, but it actually grows and it's thriving, and they have to regularly maintain pulling those out. And so that's part of that experience that you can have, is participate in a community activity that helps to maintain that important water source for Palau. So that's the line of thinking that we're also considering, and it's very much in line with participating and supporting the community, but also having that experience that you would otherwise not have if you weren't participating in Ol'au Palau.
Amazing. And actually, we've got some good questions coming in now, so that's great. Please do pop your questions in, and we'll try and get to as many of them as possible in the next 10 minutes. Benjamin had asked, is it possible to earn credits before you visit?
Oh, great question. Yes, we're working on a way to do that. Absolutely. So one of the carbon offset components is your flight, right? That's actually the biggest. I want to say it's over 60% of your carbon footprint to get to Palau is your flight. Probably more than that, I'm being conservative. But if you offset before your arrival, that is an important part of earning points. Additionally, like I said, we have preferred business providers who have signed on to the business pledge so that they are minding water use, energy use, waste management, and being community active in the community, booking a room with those service providers, or a reservation at a restaurant that is also part of the business pledge. That's the concept, is you'll be able to earn points even before you land.
Okay, that's fantastic. And hopefully after you leave as well, you can keep contributing. And I think to take what I'm seeing happening in other places as well, that this seems to be part of a trend in tourism to connect people to the location before, during, and after. It's not just about going somewhere for a week and having that experience anymore, but I think this relationship that places like Palau are making with tourists, so they come back, but also in the meantime, they maintain this relationship, is a really interesting trend that we're seeing across tourism.
And I want to identify two important data points that we has really driven this work. The first is the Palau Visitors Authority market tested the marine sanctuary back in 2014, and they said, hey, if Palau were one of your choices of destinations, and if it had this marine sanctuary, would you choose Palau over these other destinations? And the overwhelming answer was yes. And at the time, our partner, Nanae Shingeyo, who's now based in Tokyo, but used to live in Palau, she used to be a brand manager at Procter & Gamble. And she called me up as soon as she got the top line, and she said, oh my God, if this was shampoo, I'd call the factory and make more shampoo, make more large marine protected areas. So that's one data point that we always go back to. The second data point really is the industry has done a lot of work and research around this eco destination, ecotourism ethos. And the news is by 2027 or 2026, the industry, that sector alone, will be worth $333 billion. So the consumer wants this, and we've kind of known this with work like Parlay and with Adidas. We work with them quite early on in 2015, 2016 to kind of think through some of these Palau Pledge ideas. But we know for a fact that this is what consumers want. Millennials want this, Gen Z want this, even Gen Xers want this. So I think the thinking is, why aren't we giving them the product that the consumer wants? The consumer wants to have sustainability. So let's give it to them. And this is just knowing your customer, being able to understand who it is that's visiting you, and then leveraging that to do right by the destination.
Fantastic. Sarah had asked, how did you communicate the initiative to the local community and local stakeholders? So how did that relationship come about? And also, what kind of reaction did you get from the local community to the project?
I think first and foremost, because our work was born out of the traditional bull of the large marine protected area, that's Palau National Marine Sanctuary, that already had created a respect and understanding for where we were coming from, number one. And then number two, we can't do this by ourselves. A lot of the resources and funding that we get are absolutely locally generated. So we're talking to local businesses and engaging them, but they're also funding us to do this work. And then the third piece is, we have so many different advisors. I want to say for just Ol'au Palau, we've got about 25 local advisors that we try to engage with in different communities and different aspects of the communities, who can influence us, meaning they can help steer the ship, which is critical, but then also we can influence and sort of say, hey, this is what we're finding is working. Does it work for you as well? And so those conversations are always ongoing, and we really have that luxury of being in a small community. So half of the people are my uncles and aunts. And we're really just taking the advice of these senior members of the community who've been doing this work for a long time. And all we're doing is sort of taking what they have been espousing for quite some time, and putting it in a modern twist that then hopefully will generate some good relationship and revenue for the local community, and have that tourism activity happen in community, not just with large service providers, foreign service providers, etc.
Absolutely. Jennifer, that was a really fantastic conversation. I wish we had some more time, but I think that gave us a really good oversight. Are there any parting words you'd like to leave people watching this with about Palau and about the plans for the future with this project?
Yeah, I think two things. One is sustainability as a currency, behavior as the currency, I think is the way to go. And that's where we are sat. But also, we can't be here without all of our co-founders, our partners. This is very much a collective. And as long as we keep asking, sometimes we'll hit the nail on the head and we'll get what we need. And I just want to say thank you to a very large company, Host Havas, based out of Sydney. They're the third largest agency on planet Earth, and they continue to support us. And it's unbelievable. Just saying that just kind of gives me some goosebumps, that I can't believe they've gone through this effort to continue to help us. And our Palau friends, our Pacific friends are always there for us as well. So thank you to all of them. That's the reason we're here today.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jennifer, all your partners, and everyone in Palau for sharing this experience with us. We've really been happy at this summit and previous events to have a great connection with Palau to the work that's happening with the Virtual Island Summit. And so really appreciate your time on a Sunday to be here with us. For everyone watching, we have a few sessions left of the summit. We're not quite over. And this afternoon, we have a very interesting session in about 5 or 6 hours on youth and climate, and looking at SIDS innovation. And we'll actually have representatives in that panel from the Pacific, from the Indian Ocean and Africa, and also from the Caribbean, looking at the youth involvement in the climate process, especially important as we head towards COP later this year. That will be a really great session, so please do try and join. Also, you should see a feedback form in the chat, so we would really appreciate you taking 2 or 3 minutes to tell us what you enjoyed about this summit, what we could do better. We always love your comments and ideas. as we continue to change the process of what this remote digital connection between islands looks like. So please do take a few minutes to fill out that form and share your experience with us. Thanks again, Jennifer, and everyone in Palau, and thank you to the audience for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Cheers.